Another month has come and gone, and a new patch of DBD is coming out today when I'm recording this video, and of course I am surprised by it happening. I should have known this was coming considering they did a developer live stream last week to talk about the things they implemented in the PTB for 9.3. I missed when they were dropping 9.3. And I figured, like, oh, if they're talking about PTB, it should be relatively soon. And lo and behold, it was relatively soon. So here I am recording this an hour before 9.3 launches. If you're new to my channel or my content, welcome. I play a lot of Dead by Daylight off stream, but I do occasionally play on my Twitch channel as well. And I like to look at stats. I think looking at numbers is really, really cool. Thanks, work, for making me interested in data. And I've been making these videos for a while so far. We've actually passed my 1-year anniversary of tracking my stats. Maybe I'll do a different video about that at some point. I need to finish my 1,000-hour Dead by Daylight video first before I can add another video onto my docket. But today we're gonna be going through my killer sighting stats for the entirety of 9.2. As of right now, 9.2 is the patch with my least amount of games that I've played, so it's gonna be a little bit interesting to compare this patch with the prior ones, because in the prior ones I've been playing usually around 180 to 200 games or more. This one has substantially less for a multitude of reasons, and we'll get into that in just a second. I will link below the spreadsheet template I have for this, so if you would like to track your own stats and see all the colors change as you see different killers, you're more than welcome to do so. But without further ado, let's look at 9.2 as a whole. We will also touch on 2v8 as well, because 2v8 was the final event of 9.2 before we moved into 9.3, so we will touch on that. Those numbers are in their own separate tab down here in the bottom for 2v8, and then we'll take all of the data from 9.2 and we'll input it into our master spreadsheet, which I did prepare in advance, aka 10 minutes before I recorded this video, so we should be all good, in theory. Hopefully. We'll find out. Future Gray is going to find that out in a minute. So starting off in 9.2, the biggest thing that came with 9.2, well, actually kind of two big things, was one, the Krasue, a new original killer, was added into the game. And then we also had a rework for the Shape, aka Michael Myers. I put notes when I feel necessary to indicate some things, but he and the Krasue are the only ones I actually put notes for. And you want to guess? I want to take a guess how many Krasues I saw during this entire patch of 9.2. Let me give you like some context. I have played 140 single 1v4 survivor games. Go ahead and guess. Put your answer down in the comments below if you feel so inclined. You ready for the answer? Because it's probably not going to shock you. I saw Krasue for a total of 4 times during the entirety of 9.2. 2 of those times were in 9.2.0. Though to be fair, I only did play 16 games, which I think 2.0 and 2.1 I think were fairly close to each other in release, and maybe even 2.2. This was in the tail end of September going into October. I wasn't playing a whole lot of DBD. I was kind of hoping for Halloween event, but even then for Halloween, I didn't play a whole lot because with work was really, really stressful. We had a lot going on. So I just, when I would get home, I would just kind of stare at a wall for an hour or two and then attempt to go do chores, maybe fall asleep at like 8 o'clock at night on a Friday. Overall, we're just seeing less numbers of killers, generally speaking, because I played less games during 9.2 as a whole. And just for comparison, in 2v8, I played, it's saying 76 games, but 76 divided by 2, I don't have that. I can't do math. 38 games. I played 38 games of 2v8. Generally speaking, I just did not play a lot of games in 9.2. Shout out to Balatro for being my new hyperfixation. You should get a trophy for that, probably. But I played 4 killers against the Krasue, and if we go back to when Houndmaster was released. I saw Houndmaster within 8.4 18 times. The first patch of 8.4.0, I played 39 games and saw her 12 times, which if we do the math, I saw her around 30 to 31% of my games in 8.4 was Houndmaster. In 9.2.0, I played 16 games in total, and 2 of those games were the Krasue, 12 to 13% of the time. So if we're just looking at just pure percentages, out of my 16 games in 9.2, I saw 2, that's like 12.5%. And then in 8.4, I saw Houndmaster 30 to 31% of the time. So it's very intriguing on why in 9.2, when we got a new killer, why weren't people playing her? And of course, everyone's stats are going to look a little differently based on region, when you played. I was playing this after I had gotten home from work, so it was a little later in the evening, so maybe everyone had gotten their Krasuing out of their system by the time I hopped on into the North American servers, so maybe that's why. But still, like, when I played Houndmaster, I saw a lot more. So it's really, really intriguing. And I know there's been some conversation as to why she was kind of overpowered. Her power itself provided a very distinct advantage when playing against survivors, as in she could see over walls, she could see over certain loops. One, I don't know if they actually fixed that. I haven't seen anyone talk about it. Then again, I'm not really on DBD Twitter anymore. I'm kind of on Love and D-Space Twitter, which is, it's awesome. It's its own hellhole. We've seen people before on both killer and survivor side take advantage of when there is a very clear advantage being given, whether it be a perk being broken, or a killer having a really strong power. So it's interesting that even though she has this, and again, this may have been patched out, I don't know, I don't recall. If she had this advantage, then why weren't we seeing more people play her? And I would like to think, out of the goodness of my heart, that maybe people were being very considerate and choosing not to play her because it was an advantage for the killer and a disadvantage for the survivors. But we all know that's not how people in DBD operate sometimes. So again, it's just a very curious happening, I suppose. I saw her for a total of 4 times out of my 140 games. Now, who did I see the most of? Well, continuing our trend from 9.1, Trapper came in first place at 11 sightings, which again is still a little baffling to me. Has anyone else seen like an uptick of trappers, or is it just me? Am I just seeing the uptick of trappers? And again, we kind of talked about this in my last video of how in DBD, in those intro quests, people are being asked to play like, hey, play a couple games as Trapper, play a couple games as Huntress. So maybe we're still seeing the effects of that in the new quest system, but it's still very curious that Trapper, out of the rest of the killers, is like one of the most seen recently in comparison to more, I would argue, as more popular killers like Wesker or Huntress. Tying in second place would be the Knight and Animatronic. Animatronic kind of makes sense because it's Springtrap, it's FNAF, and the FNAF movie is coming out this holiday season, which I guess is going to make FNAF a holiday film, I guess. Knight also kind of makes sense just because Knight, I feel, is a bit stronger of a killer. I feel like he's been pretty consistent if we were to look at the overall numbers. And then tied for third most seen killer in 9.2 would be Myers, which makes sense. He did get the power rework, so people are playing him to kind of figure him out. Spirit, Ghostface, and Blight. I don't really have anything additional to add for the other 3 here that we saw the most of. I mean, Blight and Spirit and Ghostface are all in 2v8, so you can make an argument that people are practicing in 1v4 to then play in 2v8. I know Ghostface is typically one that we usually see on the higher scale of numbers. I'm actually kind of surprised. Oh, and Wesker. Mastermind was also tied. I apologize. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tied for the third most seen killer, which, and again, Mastermind makes sense because he's also very, very strong and consistent with how often people play him as a killer. And the ones I didn't see, this patch may surprise you, which we only had a few out of the 140 games I played. We did not see Clown, not see Cenobite, or Sadako, which normally we usually don't see twins and we don't see Skull Merchant. And you want to guess what my very first game was in 9.2? If you want to guess, put your answer down in the comments below if you feel so inclined. But my first game in 9.2, when I booted up Dead by Daylight to go and try to play against the Krasue before I would go play as the Krasue, was the twins. And do you remember in my 9.1 video where I had said that I had not seen a twins player in so long? We had not seen a twins player since 8.7. And now all of a sudden, my very first game in 9.2, when there's a new killer that dropped, is the twins. Make it make sense. Beyond that tomfoolery, there really isn't much else worthy of note, I feel. We saw twins twice. We saw Skull Merchant twice. I am happy to announce that I saw Trickster 3 times, and all 3 of those times made me very happy until I died very early in all 3 of those matches because I just forget how to play DBD when I see a Trickster on the field. It just happens, I guess. I just go into fangirl mode. Hashtag we need a K-pop Demon Hunters collab with the Trickster, please and thank you. Now we're gonna move on into 2v8 stats, which again is significantly less than playing in the more recent iterations of 2v8. In this iteration of 2v8, we did not have Legion. Legion was nulled. Legion was not allowed to hang with the cool kids anymore. I believe they said they're going to be looking into making Legion more fun to play as and against in 2v8 because of the constant mending you have to do. And surprisingly, we did not see a single nurse player, which I feel like I'm lying to myself. I feel like I definitely saw a nurse, but I could have been watching other people's streams and just thinking their streams were my games, which is not the case. But we did not see a single nurse player in 2v8, which is weird. Nurse has been pretty consistent in having at least someone play as nurse, but we didn't see her once. Actually, considering when you look at the total stats on the side, nurse is the one we see the least, actually. And if we were to delete, I'm gonna copy and delete. Hillbilly was the one we saw the least, and then now, because we didn't see any of her in 2v8, Billy kind of took over by a lead of 2. So Nurse is now our least seen killer in 2v8. Mastermind is still leading the charge at 73 sightings in total across all iterations of 2v8. Executioner and Dark Lord had a maybe not so great showing. I wouldn't be able to tell you why that is, why we didn't see that many Dark Lords or Executioner in 2v8. Now this is the fun time where I take all of my stats from 9.2 and copy them over into the master spreadsheet. Oh boy, let's hope nothing breaks. Stand by real quick. All right, let's see. And ta-da! Ooh, they didn't really do a dent in anything, I don't think. I didn't notice any, like, hold on, wait, hold on. Delete. All right, so let's take a look. Let's focus on the total column on the left-hand side. And Alakazam. Nothing's really changed, I don't think. Ghoul is still reigning supreme. Ghoul's probably gonna be our first one that's gonna go over 100. Probably gonna be the first one, I would imagine. I just need one more game. Which is also really interesting to see, like, Ghoul's kind of tapering off a little bit, because, like, people were, I think, were really worried of Ghoul just being this powerhouse for months and months and months. So Ghoul remains supreme at 99 as of right now. Again, more consistent killers are going to probably start catching up over time because the new fad killer is going to slowly fade out because now as people are going to play them, they're going to go back to playing their more preferred favorite killers. So he is at 99, animatronics at 89, so second highest, which makes sense. Tied for third is Legion and Mastermind, so they're slowly catching up. I think it goes to show for Legion and Mastermind specifically, not to discredit any of the other killers who are ranking pretty high as well, so like Huntress, the Shape, Nemesis as well. I think in the long run of things, you want consistency. I think the developers should be looking more at what makes people come back to play specific killers time and time again. No matter how good Ghoul is, or how good animatronic is, or how good the new original killers are going to be or not be, people are going to always gravitate back towards either their favorite killers that they like to play as, or the people who are going to be really strong. And there's that consistency aspect of it. Maybe I'll do like a full retrospective of the last year of playing DBD to kind of see what the trends have been. But I, just looking at this total sheet over here all on its own, I would wager that across every iteration of me doing this sheet so far, Wesker and Legion are probably some of my most seen every patch, and they're probably the most consistent in players every patch. And I think the developers should be taking note of that and asking the questions of, why are people coming back to these specific killers no matter what we do? So no matter who the new fancy killer is, the shiny new toy, what makes people enjoy playing these killers specifically? And maybe that's where they need to pivot their focus towards. Maybe they need to be asking the questions of when they're designing a new killer, because there's that grimoire chapter for the 10th anniversary that hopefully is still going to be a thing. What makes people want to play specific killers? What drives people to play these killers, and what makes them enjoyable, both from a survivor and killer perspective? I know out of the two of them, I prefer playing against a mastermind, but why do I like playing against a mastermind beyond it being Wesker, and Wesker is Wesker, and Wesker is hot? Beyond just physical appearance, what makes me enjoy playing against a mastermind versus a Legion versus a Nemesis? And maybe that's where they need to start looking into that data more and asking those questions, in opposed to, all right, well, what's something we haven't done yet? What are your players currently enjoying? And how can we continue to foster that? And not to get on a soapboxy tangent in the middle of a stat video, but I know DBD right now, from the videos I have seen and from people talking about it, DBD is kind of in a bad place at the moment. They had a lot of good things coming, and they had a lot of good things that happened. We're kind of seeing it in this rut right now, with patches just having numerous amount of bug fixes, which then creates new bugs for some reason, and people aren't playing the new killers. People on both sides of the coin just feel the game is just not fun to play right now. Again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. For me personally, I just happen to get obsessed with Balatro. And I talk more about this in my 1,000-hour video, which again, hopefully I will post before the new year is here. But I feel the game needs to do some introspection, especially with the 10-year anniversary coming around the corner. There's just been these mishaps that have just happened, and they just keep happening. They kind of need to do some soul searching a little bit and maybe get back to what makes DBD great. What makes it so unique, and why people continuously come back to the game no matter what is going on in the state of the game. What makes people like us who step away for a little bit and then come back? What makes us do that? What draws us back into the game? When it comes to playing the different killers, I think I mentioned this in my 1,000 hours video, but I'll mention it here because that video is not out yet. There's so many killers. There's so many killers. It's gonna come to a point where you can't really have a new killer because all of the powers are gonna be so similar to one another. I think, personally, this is an Aaron Gray promise, I think that they should take a step back, kind of reevaluate, and fix what they have already, and then go from there. Again, that was very much a tangent for a stat video, but again, statistics, makes us have these questions. And that's what I love about statistics. If you want to hear me rant about stats, go check out my prior stat video from 9.1 and 9.0. That's where I go on like my little soapbox on statistics and why data is so interesting. This is why you gather data. You gather data to help ask questions, to help make informed decisions. And what we should not be doing with the data is skewing it into the answer that we want to make it show. That's all I got for this video. I am curious to know what your thoughts are and what killers have you feel like you've seen the most of as we head into the final month-ish of 2025. What are your holiday wishes for DBD? What killer would you like to see get a little bit more love? I know I took a peek at the 9.3 patch notes. I did see that there's some Skull Merchant buffs. So I'm curious if I'm going to see any Skull Merchants today as I go and play my DBD games. And I did see that they are going back on some of their changes in the slugging anti-tunneling updates, which hurts a little bit on the inside, not gonna lie. Thanks y'all for watching me ramble about statistics in Dead by Daylight. This actually might be the reason I learned Power BI. And if you're wondering what Power BI is, don't look it up unless if you work in somewhat corporate America. It's just gonna confuse you more. I have to learn it for work and I'm already confused. But with that, I hope you all have a good holiday season and I will see you in some iteration of a future video. I don't know what my schedule is anymore. It's fine. It's my channel. I can do what I want. Hope to see you in the fog, and I'll see you all real soon. My name's Aaron Gray, queer Twitch streamer, signing off.